welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Molly,
And Michael.
and today we're really excited to be covering the most recent episodes of The Perfect Match, as well as the Love Island USA premiere that's had already 4 episodes that we can cover. So we've got a lot to chat through about all the stuff happening in Perfect Match and Love Island. So let's start with Perfect Match, and I feel like we need to just talk about the split twist. Like that was crazy. Like seeing what happened when they all got back to the villa, I just was honestly all those couples kind of exploded. Like I was like, what is going on here? Like there's so much. But what are your thoughts on that split twist before we get into all of it?
Yeah, I really liked this twist a lot more than I thought I would when we saw it in the previews after last week's batch. I was a little bit concerned because I was like, okay, this feels like a little bit of a desperate attempt to create drama, just putting everybody all in the house together. It's like, okay, well, what was the point of the last like first 6 episodes that we watched for people being eliminated if they're now just going to all get together? But I liked the way that they did it in kind of a similar way to Casa Amor on Love Island or the split week on season 8 of Bachelor in Paradise that they had. But what I liked about this was that it wasn't new people that they just threw in that don't really have a chance to actually form genuine connections because the season's already so far into it. But what I like is they brought in these people who had been eliminated before, and so they already had these beginnings of a connection built. So now some people are in a different spot than they were when they were in the house before, and some people may have been in a really serious couple at the time, and then now somebody's coming in who is, potentially you're in a worse position with your partner, and now you're more open to exploring other options. So I actually think this was a good twist, and I think that Bachelor in Paradise, honestly, if it were to ever come back, should actually probably do it this way, and I think that it would produce better results.
Yeah, I agree. I think that really did help that ignite some other connections that were made just because of the fact that they already knew who they were. It wasn't just
Mhm.
totally a random person coming in here. Like, I don't know who this person is. Like, it's not going to really shake things up. But if there were already those seeds planted, like, obviously that's going to cause some more drama there. So I like the way that it was set up as well. So definitely other shows should take note. But let's start out with talking about Harry and Melinda when we saw them talking and Harry carrying Melinda. It's a lot to break down within this, but first, do you think that Harry crossed the line with Melinda?
It's so hard. I watched it back so many times because I was like trying to see if I could tell what happened there. It didn't look to me like it was anything romantic. Like, I think if anything, Harry did it kind of like as a joke almost, it seemed like he was carrying her, and he probably did cross a line in terms of just being flirty and being willing to carry her. Like, someone else could have done that who didn't, have that kind of already baggage with them. um but I don't know. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle of what Melinda was saying and what Harry was saying. I think Harry was downplaying it 100% when he was telling Jess because he was scared of ruining what he thought was a really serious, good relationship that he probably actually did think he could see lasting in the outside world, and didn't want to ruin it for something like this little moment. But then also, I do think that Melinda was probably trying to stir things up and trying to make it sound worse than it really was. So, did he cross a line? Probably yes, but not as far of a line as Melinda was trying to make it seem like.
I agree. I think, like, I can see both of their sides of like why they would want to showcase it that way. Like, obviously, like it was being looking favorable more towards Harry if he was not sharing every single detail that was going on with like Jess because he doesn't want to try to hurt her more than she already is. And then also with Melinda, just really wanting to be more in the show is what he tried to claim, like just like trying to get back in and like get the airtime that she really didn't get because got sent home very quickly from when she first came
Mhm.
in. So like I can see why then like she would maybe accentuate it a little bit long, maybe like add on some things to make it sound a little bit crazier.
Yeah, I mean, I think Harry's the biggest name on the show,
Yeah.
and I think attaching yourself to Harry is going to inherently make you more relevant. And I do think that now Melinda doesn't really need to do that. Melinda's a big name in her own right. She's been on other shows, and I think most people who know Harry know Melinda already. So it's not like she's really needs to clout chase in that way. But I do think that it feels a little bit like she was trying to stir up some drama, even just for the sake of the show. It may not even be a clout farming type of thing, but it's just for the sake of making a good show. I think she knows how to do that, and she's does it well, and it worked.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But we'll have to see what will happen. I mean, it seems like in general that Jess, like, obviously, I'm so glad Jess stood her ground. Like, she really knows how to handle those conversations, which I was so impressed about. Like, her reactions were so mature, in my opinion, of like, just like knowing what she stands on and like isn't gonna put up with Harry for reacting that way. Like, but then she is understanding and knowing that like he was crying and not feeling well, like saying like all like such like caring things, like which shows because like
Mhm.
she's other obviously a mother. So like I feel like she has those tendencies that really come out also in like her relationships. So I think she is gonna forgive Harry in this, but I think it. I mean, now we know that they've also broken up now, but in the moment in the show, I think they're gonna get back together and
Yeah.
like be in the end together.
No, I agree with that. I think that absolutely she'll forgive him and they'll leave together. But I really I agree with you. I really liked the way that she handled the conversations with Harry. I think with Melinda, it was a little bit like it felt like she was kind of blaming the woman rather than blaming Harry. And I get why she reacted that way because Melinda didn't need to do it in front of everyone. But also, on the other hand, look, this is a show, and I feel like we say this all the time on like Housewives type shows. It's like, okay, and in the normal world, you're not going to bring a really controversial, serious topic up at a table in front of the entire cast. But on a show like this, that is kind of what you're going to do if you're a good reality star. You're not going to go and pull them away and then, have a mature conversation off to the side. You're going to bring it up in front of everyone and create a moment. Like that is kind of what you're quote unquote supposed to do on a show like this. So, I think Melinda was doing her job as a reality star, but I understand why Jess would be upset about her handling it that way too when it involves her directly.
Yeah, and I even remember Jess saying in one of her interviews that she was like, "Well, I'm not used to this reality world
Yeah,
because like she hadn't even seen herself yet
right.
on how she was shown in Love is Blind." So like she was really really new. Like she only did one show and she didn't even know how it was edited.
Well,
So
she
like
didn't
these
even
people
get
who
out of the pods.
yeah, she didn't even get out of the pot. Yeah, so she wasn't even on like the full time of it.
Yeah.
So she really was really new to it, and I it could show in that sense of like she reacted like how she would want to be treated in like the real world, but this is not. We're in reality TV world here. Like
Mhm.
that's a little bit of a difference. Obviously, I care about Jess's feelings, and I don't want her hurt in this, but like it did cause for good TV.
Yeah, no, 100%. It was a great
Yeah,
moment, and I can understand both sides of what they were doing there.
yeah, for sure. Well, another good TV moment we need to talk about is when Kaz is kissing Holly in the game, and then while Micah is just walking over to
They're
them.
playing what was
They
it?
play
Flip Cup
flip
they were
cup.
playing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So Micah was just having a conversation, basically thinking like, "Oh, Kaz is maybe looking around." Like literally, they're like setting this up for this moment. But I was still shell shocked when I saw it happening. I was like, "Oh no!" And Micah being there in that exact moment, I was felt so bad. I was just like, "This is such good TV, but also so bad on Micah's mental health."
I know, I was like, Micah, stay there with Brighton for like 5 more minutes. Like,
Exactly.
I wouldn't want to talk to Brighton for any longer than I absolutely have to either. But like, just stay there for a few more minutes so you don't have to witness this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so Brighton also a factor in this because he's like really getting in Micah's head about this stuff, which I didn't like about that side of things. Even that like Brighton just wanted to be in the show and like that just showed like so much. He even admitted that. Later we'll talk about that. But Like he's just like, I wanted to get a match, and Micah was the crack. Um, basically, is what he wanted to do, and it worked out that he like caused Micah to then be like so upset over Kaz that like she was gonna be single then, but then she obviously didn't match with Brighton. But like in that moment, like it caused that breakup. Like seeing like having those conversations, but then seeing the actions that Kaz is kissing someone else who he went on a date with
Hmm.
that Micah already knew that he got tempted by. Like that just added so much more because she thought that they were past this. And then
Hmm.
now bringing it all back, and the fact that he kissed her in front of Micah is even worse. So, yeah, those are
You know,
just
you know
initial
what's so
thoughts.
interesting? Like, because we're going to talk about Love Island in a little bit, and in both shows, there's so much drama with people kissing someone in a game,
Yeah.
and then people saying, "Oh, well, that was just the game. I was, that wasn't serious. That was just, in a challenge in a game." Like, and it's so interesting how there's so many parallels in both of these shows with that aspect of it, and it is an interesting topic of conversation because, like, is doing something, and I guess it's a little different in this type of game versus like a challenge
Mhm.
on the show that you're required to participate in. But yeah, no, I think one reason I was glad that Micah saw it, because they needed to break up. Like, they
Yeah.
were toxic. They were not. Kaz was not fully in it, especially like, and Micah needed to know how not into it he was, and how, because she knows, like, look, he's being tempted by every woman that walks in the house. But I think she was trying to kind of still justify to herself, like, okay, he's coming back to me every time. Like, can we make this work? And so while it was really hard for her to see that, she needed to see it because she needs to know, like, okay, I can fully move on here. I can explore
Mhm.
my other options. Now that everybody's an option in the house, this is the time to do it when you have the most options.
Yeah.
So I was glad that she saw it, although I understand how awkward and hard that must have been.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. I agree with everything. Everything you just said. Because I feel like they were really just like I think she even said it in one of her interviews saying like I was seeing these but not choosing to like go forward with my gut feeling in this. Like
Hmm.
she kept on forgiving him and kept on just like trying to see where things could go, but she also knew deep down it wasn't going to work out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. But we'll see now that she's matched with Izzy, which
Yes.
is really just a friendship match. But I was happy for her, happy for Izzy. They finally got what he wanted, although she was very, very clear. I laughed so hard when she hugged him and said, "This is the worst day of my life," as she's matching.
Oh my
Like,
god.
that must have not been great to hear, but he still got what he wanted. So I
Yeah.
guess in the end it worked out for him. But
Yeah, for sure. And then also Kaz then matches with Christine, not even Holly. He chooses Christine, which
yeah.
that was a little bit interesting because I was thinking he might have gone for Holly there, but Christine was like really coming on him when we didn't even talk about that yet, but like when they were sitting at the cenote on their boys' day, and then she like was really trying to kiss him, and he turned away. But like he didn't look like he was like really like really not wanting it. Like he was just doing it because he thought like it was gonna ruin it with Micah, and obviously it still ended up being ruined with Micah. But like in that moment, at least he was thinking like a little bit more respectfully, I guess, in some regard, but not really because he ended up doing it in the game. But overall, he's with Christine now, and I feel like they're definitely probably a better match than Micah and Kaz. So we'll see what happens with them also.
Yeah, I think with Christine, I mean, I don't know that this is going to last.
Yeah.
I feel like Christine just came in really wanting to have a moment and
Mhm.
wanting to be in a pair, so that she would be on the show longer. I don't know that she really necessarily had anything in particular for Kaz. Like, it felt like she was just willing to kind of, like, Kaz was the one that she saw the biggest crack in his relationship with Micah, and so that was what she was going to go for. But I feel like she kind of would have done that with anyone, which I guess you could say for a lot of people, probably.
Yeah.
But she was really coming on hard, which kind of made me feel like the harder she came on, the less I felt like it was actually anything with Kaz specifically that she
That's true.
was doing that for.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't really seem very genuine, but
Yeah,
it worked out for her.
it did. Hey, it worked. So
She's on the
what do
show
I
every
know?
day. Oh, what did you say?
I said, what do I know? It worked for her, so more
Yep.
power to her.
So that what we thought was one of the stronger couples of Micah and Kaz has now broken and now in two other matches. So we'll see what happens with that the next drop on Friday. But next up, in we had in Perfect Match also was about Elise leaving Justin for Brighton, which this one I wasn't totally shocked about because Elise and Justin really didn't seem that close anyways. Like we kind of knew they weren't the strongest pair there of like in terms of like we never really saw them kiss or like do anything really like hugging. Like it kind of felt like they were a little bit standoffish of each other sometimes. So I feel like that Elise was gonna go for someone else. But I was shocked at how much Justin really was upset about it and like really just thinking Elise was only one for him there when there were so many other girls there still. I'm like, you know her for 4 days maybe? Like like I was like, how long are you actually invested in this girl who's like now deciding to go with someone else? You can also go with someone else, but he was
Hmm.
really hurt, which I felt bad for. But like also I was like, this is a show, and the same work. Like I feel bad for these people, but I'm also like, oh, but if you want to be on the show, you could. Um, so we'll see how Elise and Brighton get on together, but I feel like Brighton's just there for the fame as well. So I don't like that match, but Elise did what she wanted to do, so she'll see.
Yeah, I mean, justice for Justin. I felt really, really bad for him. And I agree. I mean, he probably could have found someone else there. But I did feel bad for him in that moment because even though his relationship with Elise didn't seem the closest and I didn't think it was going to last, especially because I felt like Elise was really with him, but really focusing on getting back at Harry the
Mm-hmm.
whole time. But it came out of nowhere that she chose Brighton. That I felt like we did not see them talk that I can remember at all until that moment when she was like watching him with Micah and she was like, I feel jealous and I don't know why I feel jealous.
Oh my
But
gosh, that edit was like it felt like a cartoon almost of like her not listening to Justin and then only seeing Brighton. I was like, oh my
yeah. Yeah, and so it felt like maybe she has this weird thing because I feel like she kind of has this weird thing with Micah where she kind of seems to kind of always be jealous of the guys that Micah's talking to. I don't know, but I felt bad for Micah too because then Elise got to Brighton when Micah had really been kind of laying the groundwork with Brighton the whole time, and Brighton had been expressing his interest in Micah, but then ended up with Elise. So then Micah was kind of forced to go with Izzy in a non-romantic partnership. But yeah, I really just kind of felt bad for Justin, and I understood why he was upset and wanted to leave. But I do think that if he had really thought about it for another 30 minutes, he probably would have been able to be convinced to stay and try it with someone else. But I think he was just so emotional that he was just like, nope, I'm out of here.
yeah, that's for sure. I think, and that night seemed like it lasted a while. Like I don't know what time they ended up going to sleep. Everyone was probably just exhausted and drunk and like
Yeah.
a lot of heightened emotions. So like in that moment, he was just done with it and like didn't want to be part of it anymore and just saw himself
And
out. So respect.
maybe he did like kind of more so than we saw, like kind of go through in his head all the other options and either convinced himself or was maybe correctly convinced that there just weren't any other options that he was actually interested in or that could have actually like really worked out for him for whatever reason. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. So respect Justin for that. And we'll see what happens with Elise and Brighton, but we don't have any high hopes for that. So speaking of who we think will last, are there any couples you think will be leaving together, and who do you think is gonna win?
I think it has to be Alara and Steven.
Yeah,
They're the one couple that we haven't talked about because there really wasn't any drama with them.
I know
They
they're so
are
wholesome this
so
week.
cute together. And I think that they absolutely are my favorite couple. And I think probably will win because I mean, maybe Harry and Jess, if they quickly make up and can, by the end, by the time the vote happens, can like convince everybody again that they're like on good, strong foundation of their relationship and will last in the end. But I think probably if you're really going on the couple that everybody seems to like and had the least amount of issues throughout the season, then I think it has to be Alara and Steven.
Yeah, I agree. I really like them together. It was nice also when they we barely even saw like their dates, which like that's a sign that like you know that it's not going to continue with either one of them because they were even tested. I put in quotes because it's like they
Mm-hmm.
weren't really having to be tested. Like they still wanted to be with each other.
Yeah.
So I like that moment too. That like you really could see their appreciation and like I don't know if they said love you, but they really do like each other.
And they
And
trusted each other enough to go on these dates. And I think that's big too, that even there wasn't an insane amount of drama about the fact that they were each going to go on dates and all the jealousy and crying. And we didn't see any of that really. Like they were like, okay.
yeah.
So,
And then Seven did try to scare Lara about kissing Britain, but
yeah.
then she was like, "No, why did you do that?" Like because he was just kidding with her, which I think is another sign that they were just really strong. That like he felt like he could just joke about that and like have like
Hmm.
still have trust with her, which was nice.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Is the finale going to be dropped this week, or what's the order of
Yeah,
it?
it's just there's just one more episode, just the
Yeah.
finale. And yeah, so we will get our vote in that episode and we will find out who our winner is.
Yeah, that will be exciting. So we'll be talking about that next week. But now let's go into Love Island. Michael, want to kick us off?
Yes, so Love Island USA season 6 dropped its first week of episodes this past week. We will be covering the first 4, so that's up until Friday night's drop. Saturday night was just the After Sun episode, it's kind of their new weekly talk show. And we are recording the Sunday night, so we have not watched the episode that dropped right before we started recording here. But I think that this works as kind of the first week of episodes, and then we'll do this weekly going up until Friday night's drop every week. So, Molly, what do you think overall of the start of the season, our new cast, Ariana as our new host? What are your overall feelings so far?
Yeah, well, I am really enjoying Love Island. It's also my very first season of watching it in the summer. I saw Love Island Games, but not the same. So this is my first like real experience of Love Island and the set like I didn't even know really like the whole structure of it or like how it
Hmm.
worked until watching it this season. So it's kind of been exciting for me to also watch it with a little bit of a fresh lens into it of like not really knowing what the past seasons were like, which I'm
Hmm.
enjoying and I really do like a lot of these people on the cast, and I feel like overall I've been rooting for relationships or rooting for other people to get with each other. Like overall, like I feel like somewhat invested in everyone in the sense, or like I like watching them, which is fun because I feel like that adds to the show, just like liking who the cast is. And then I also think Ariana is a great host, so it's been great to see her in a kind of in a different environment here and killing it at what she's doing. So it's been really great. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is a really strong start so far. I like there's kind of little changes with like the first coupling when they first got there. That's different than they've ever done it before. Usually they have just the girls come in and then the guys come in one by one and they don't know who the other options are going to be. And then they just like step forward if they're interested in the guy. And then the guy chooses one of the ones. Actually, I think he can choose anyone. He doesn't even have to be the one to step forward, which is weird. But this time they did it a little differently where they brought all the guys out together and they had the little kissing challenge at the beginning. So I liked that. I think that that was a much better way of doing it where it gave the girls a little bit more power in saying who they were going to be paired with in the beginning than they have in the past. So I liked that. And yeah, I think this cast is really likable so far. There's a lot of drama so far that we've seen, and I think Ariana's done great as host. I think you can tell that she's really enjoying it. She's having fun, and I like that. But I'm curious with you because this is your first time watching Love Island, like you said. And what do you think of, like, now that we're watching Perfect Match at the same time, a little bit of a similar concept? You've seen every season of Bachelor in Paradise and the Bachelor franchise. What do you think of kind of Love Island's format and show overall versus those other two and kind of other similar dating shows that you might have watched?
Yeah, I was thinking about this recently because I mean, they all are very similar in the sense that they're bringing in a bunch of girls, a bunch of guys, to then be paired with each other. They can break up, they can get together with other people. Like, there's a much of like more fluidity in it in a sense, but then you're also trying to build out these like strong relationships towards the end of it as well. So there's like game components as we're seeing in Love Island and in Perfect Match. We don't get games
Hmm.
in Bachelor in Paradise. We just get date cards. But so I think like it's fun to see like those games being played. I think in Love Island, like they're way more frisky than I was expecting them to be.
Hmm.
Like that's a big difference. Obviously, it's different streaming than not on Netflix. So
That's
different
true. Yeah.
different networks have different, I guess, rights in doing things. But
Hmm.
I don't know. Or I guess Perfect Match could be a little bit more frisky if they wanted it to be, but it just really isn't. Um, but I think like in that sense, like it's like it feels different. That like they all have their own characters, in my opinion, of like what
Yeah.
those shows are. So like I really enjoy what Love Island is for what I've seen of it so far. Like, and now I understand the hype. Like I'm like, why would I never? I don't know why I never watched it in the past because I
I
was like,
know.
I didn't hear people really like watching it, I guess, as much as other shows,
Yeah.
maybe. But I know people now that I'm watching it are like very much like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you to get started and watching it. So there is a
Hmm.
really strong fan base there, which is also kind of fun to see that.
Yeah.
Um, but I like the structure. I think that obviously you said like there are changes each year, which also can add to it, like showing that they're still evolving and like making updates to it. Sorry, that was a really long answer, and that's but
No.
I think
Yeah.
I think overall like it's I could write an essay maybe about it. Like like there's so many differences, and I'm not going to, but there's so
We'll
many
start a blog.
differences. What?
We'll start a blog.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I am enjoying Love Island. Like it's fun, lighthearted, also drama. Like it's just like it feels like a whole well-rounded show.
Yeah, no, Love Island is my favorite format for a dating show because what I really like is that because we're getting nightly drops of
Oh,
episodes, I feel like we really do see most of the story of why people are making decisions that they're making. And uh, I think that in other shows we miss a lot more, it feels like. And I think with Perfect Match, even I feel like cast members have said like, oh, like, no, there was a lot more to this story or why I did whatever. And I'm sure we're missing stuff with Love Island too, of course, but we pretty much get an episode per day on Love Island. And I think because of that, and because it's in real time, like we're watching this as it's happening pretty
yeah,
much,
I
whereas
forgot to
other
say
shows.
that's really cool. I forgot about that, and I was like, wait, we'll be able to like interact with this? Like this is
Yes.
cool.
No,
Yeah.
so every week, pretty soon here, there's going to be a vote
Wow.
that the public gets to choose which couple, or which I think, oh, forgive me for forgetting this. I think it's either the audience picks two couples, the bottom two couples, that then the rest of the Islanders vote on who goes home. Or maybe, no, I think it's the public chooses one couple and then the Islanders pick which one of that couple goes home. I think that's how it is.
Okay.
It might be different every time slightly, and that's why I'm forgetting. But
Don't ask me because
um,
I haven't seen it before.
yeah, so there are votes throughout the season, and then at the end, the public chooses the winning couple, who
Yeah,
then wins a cash prize of I think like
and
$100,000.
that's fun. To, like the audience is really a factor into who wins this.
Yeah. So the audience does have some say. So it's kind of like the dating version of Big Brother is the way that I think of it. It's like it's in real time. You get episodes all the time. There's no live feeds, but it's like you get more episodes than you do weekly on Big Brother. So it's kind of like that makes up for it. But yeah, I just think it's more of like a full experience. Like it feels like you're not waiting a week for episodes. You're not watching a bunch of episodes at one time and then you have to wait a week. Like you're getting them really consistently. And I think if you watch it in real time like that, you really do get so much more invested, I think, than you do on other shows.
Yeah, I agree. I watched them all like in the past couple of days, so I was like really like keeping update, like catching up. But I feel like if like I start watching it now this week, like I'll watch it like
Hmm.
every day. It's kind of like more sequential and like knowing that this is really happening more like this week. Like that's fun that like we're like aligned with their lives right now.
Yeah, no, 100%. And there's no spoilers because of it. We don't have the Harry and Jess situation where we know what happens there because know that this film 10 months ago and we know Harry's had all been on Dancing with the Stars and all that stuff now. And because with this, like, we don't know what's going to happen because nobody it's happening, this what you're watching happened like yesterday.
Yeah.
So and look, Love Island USA has not had a great track record of couples staying together, but last season that filmed a year ago, three couples are still together. The final three couples are all still together a year later.
Wow.
So hopefully we keep the trend going this year and we have a good success rate of these couples. But let's get into these couples now, one
Yeah.
individually, and we'll give our thoughts and which couples we think will stay together. So let's start with Leah and Rob. I would say probably our most consistent couple that we have as of right this moment. What are your thoughts on Leah and Rob?
I actually really like them together. I feel like from the moment they met, like there was already just that spark or connection that they had. And then they obviously got tested when Liv had stolen Rob from Leah when Liv came on in which episode was it? Like the second episode
Liv came in
or
the
third?
first episode,
Oh,
actually,
it was the
which
first.
she was
Okay.
a bombshell, but
Oh
she
yeah.
came in a little later, but still, I think in the first episode.
Okay, so she came in, but after they had already coupled.
Yeah,
So yeah, so it felt like a new episode, even though it was the same one.
right,
Um,
right.
but so when that happened, then Leah was really upset, and I honestly thought like I wasn't totally sure. Like Rob like didn't really seem like he was that into Liv, but I was thinking like maybe if they're spending a lot more time together, like he might develop some feelings there. But then him like creating that secret sign for them like for Rob and Leah to go meet on the dock. Like I thought that was
Mhm.
cute that he was like making it still a priority to see her, which I really liked. Which then I guess caused some drama as well because then Liv saw them kissing on the dock one of the nights and she was like, well, you were going behind my back. Like, why didn't you just tell me you weren't really interested in me? And I can see why Liv was upset about that, but also like they just weren't a match. Like I would have just stepped away already as well, like being like, oh, I see them and the way they look at each other. Like I feel like you can tell, like the way he goes to hug her, like all those things that like he wasn't doing that with Liv. So I like seeing Leah and Rob together.
Yeah, I really love Leah and Rob together. They're my favorite couple right now. I think that they probably have the best shot of really being kind of the consistent couple throughout the whole season, like the, Jade and Tanner, if you will. And I think that, yeah, I think individually, I really like both of them, and I like you. There's a chemistry there together that you can tell. I think I don't see them easily being broken up by bombshells coming in later in the season. But yeah, with Liv and Rob, there was absolutely no chemistry whatsoever at all. I don't know that I loved the way Rob handled it. I thought he gave her a little bit too much of kind of hope that there could be something developing when I think it was pretty clear that based on other conversation we had with Leah and other people that there wasn't any shot of that. So I can understand why Liv maybe thought there was more potential than there was, but I also think that Liv should have kind of seen like, okay, there really wasn't any chemistry here. Like I probably should not choose him.
Yeah.
But I think her being upset seeing Leah and Rob kissing on the dock, she definitely overreacted, but I can understand why she wouldn't love that, but I think that her reaction was a little bit over the top still.
Yeah, I agree. And it also is interesting because we don't see that on other shows as much of like when they're like in a couple, like going to go and sneak off with someone else. Because you're forced to get, or I guess the same thing, not forced, but like you're like coupled together. You can't really leave like in Bachelor in Paradise. Like if you just don't want someone anymore, like you could break up with them and like go to someone else.
Hmm.
Like here, like they're sharing a bed together. There are some more rules
Right.
like associated to that, which I also felt like maybe it was dragged on longer than it like needed to be if they just had another recoupling sooner. Like like I was like, why aren't you doing this? Like I want them to get back together. But obviously then it did happen, so it's okay now. But I really like
Yeah.
them, so we'll see what happens, and hopefully they last.
Yes, fingers crossed that they haven't already broken up in this episode that just dropped. But speaking of couples that are probably already broken up in this episode that just dropped, Serena and Cordell.
Yep.
So they're absolutely a friendship couple, I think, at this point. There's very little chemistry there. I think in the beginning there was hope. Like they were matching, it was cute. They seemed to have a lot in common. They're both from Houston.
From
So
Houston.
I think that yeah. So maybe I'll see them out somewhere.
Yeah.
And black out like I do every time that I see people that I recognize from shows and aren't able to form a coherent sentence when I meet them. So
Just have
we'll
a
see.
notes app of what you would say to them when you run into
I
them.
know I should do that. That's probably smart. I just like hold on 1 second while I get my notes of what I was going to say to you.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I think that there's no hope that they will stay together at all. But Molly, what do you think?
No, I think it's already done for. I mean, we just saw Serena talking about the most recent episode that we saw about how like she just saw him as a friend. Like she just said that like I don't feel a spark there. Like there's no romance. It's just friendship for her. So I can see it ending now. Like it's not gonna last.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that on paper, you would think that they would be a good couple, but there's just clearly very little chemistry there. And yeah, I don't think it's going to work out at all. But we'll see. Maybe we have two new female bombshells coming in. Now we know. And maybe, I don't think either of them said that they were coming for Cordell, but you never
No.
know. That could easily
Yeah.
change.
True.
But let's move on to Janae and Connor. So we, I feel like haven't seen a ton of them lately, but I think that they're cute together. But this is another one where I think maybe more so friends. But they had a cute moment where Janae says she's reading the dictionary, and Connor thought that was actually really cute. I think that he could have thought that that was weird, but he had a good reaction to it at least. And then Janae was telling him about her serial killer affinity, and you know,
I know it's
to
funny
each his
that like
own.
there she's like, oh, I don't tell people this, and then now the whole world knows this.
Yeah,
Um, but I mean, I like them together. Like I like seeing them at least talk together. Like I like him. I like Connor a lot more than Coy. So
yeah,
at least that's an upgrade.
yeah. Do
But
you think that he's a better fit for her than Koi was?
I think in some ways, like Coy and Janae were a good fit together. But I think in terms of like what Janae really wanted was like just more of like that, like having initiative and like being able to like start conversations and like have good communication. Like Connor is much better at that. And so I think that's more what Jenna was looking for in that like moment, and that's what made her choose Connor. Is my guess, like because it really was a hard decision for her because she had been with Coy for so long, and then
Mm-hmm.
Connor comes in and like they have like not that many conversations, but she's really enjoying those conversations. So
Mm-hmm.
I just saw her being more appreciated and like happy in those conversations with Connor, and so I think they're stronger in that sense. But I don't know if they're really gonna last. But like I like them for right now.
Yeah, no, the more I think of it, I don't know that they're a friendship couple. I do think that there's potential there. I think right now we just haven't quite seen enough of them to have a strong feeling that they're going to last. But I do think that from what we've seen, that I think there's something there. I do think that they could have a future, and I think that there's high potential that they will recouple together again, and that maybe we'll see this through longer.
Yeah, I agree. I'm rooting for them.
Yeah, I am too. Now, let's move on to Liv and Hakeem. Now, this one I think is a friendship couple. I don't think there's much chemistry here. I like both of them, but I don't think that I see them lasting together.
Yeah, I agree. We can talk about this a little bit later on, but I don't see them together, but I see them both with other people. But
Hmm.
so I guess well, like I can spoil it now, but I think that Liz and Kendall, or sorry, Liv and Kendall would be a good match together.
Hmm.
Like I ever since from the beginning when like she first came in, Kendall already was interested in like seeing like, oh,
Yeah.
he's like that's my type. So now that like it seems like we can go into that too, but like
Yeah, no, we can talk about
yeah. So
Hannah
with
and
Hannah
Kendall.
and Kendall, like this kind of related in a sense because like
Yeah.
they're kind of
Yeah. We
together.
can talk about them together.
Yeah. But so with Hannah, like basically like having talked to both Kendall and Hakeem, then choosing Kendall and like there being that drama there. Now Kendall's like not really into Hannah. Like I really think that Kendall and Liv have a really good shot at this now. Like I was worried that he was
Hmm.
too into Hannah before to like switch his opinion. But now that Hannah was like that with Hakeem, like choosing to kiss Hakeem in the game and like that was like she thought it was a joke. Like Kendall took it very seriously. Like
Yeah.
it caused a lot of drama there, and so I really do think that they're breaking up in this episode. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, no, I mean, going into Hannah and Kendall, I mean, justice for Kendall. I feel bad for him. I think that Hannah, look, I really, really like Hannah as a person. I think she's so entertaining. I do not think that she handled this well at all. Going back and forth between Hakeem and Kendall, and it really feels like she's kind of shooting herself in the foot on both of them. But I my only concern with Liv is that I feel like she's maybe like having a little bit of a similar situation to Elise on Perfect Match, where Elise was so fixated on getting back at Harry. And I think that Liv is really focused on getting back at Rob. And so I feel like she's not going to fully immerse herself into a relationship with Hakeem or Kendall because I think she's still really pissed off at Rob. So I think that's my only fear, but I do think that Liv and Kendall are definitely better together, and probably Hannah and Hakeem too. Than if they just kind of do a partner switch, I think probably would be best for all parties.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that's a good point about Liv still getting bitter about things with Rob because we saw even in the game when she splashed Leah and Rob both in that game.
Yeah,
Like, okay, girl, like she's
I
still
don't know
bitter
why
even
she's mad
though
at
like
Leah, really,
yeah, I'm
but
like you it's just not her fault that Rob likes her. Like
yeah,
but yeah, so that's interesting. But we'll see what happens with those couples. I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be a lot more drama to come, so I'm excited to see.
yeah, for sure. Now, our last couple that we have to talk about here is Kaylor and Aaron. Now, this was our a note that we ended things on in the last episode. Our little cliffhanger that we have was that Kaylor was very, or no, Aaron, sorry, was very upset with Kaylor for kissing Hakeem during the last challenge. Now, I'm not sure I quite understand why Kaylor chose Hakeem. That felt like it was out of nowhere. But Kaylor just basically said, hey, I wanted to have fun and explore all my options, and Hakeem was this was an option to choose Hakeem during the challenge. And I guess she thought in kind of a similar way that Hannah thought that, oh, it's just a challenge, like, it doesn't really matter. It seems like Kaylor kind of had that similar mindset, but like Kendall, Aaron was not very happy and did not have that mindset. So, do you think that Aaron was justified in being upset with Kaylor for that? Do you think that they'll reconcile things?
I do think that Aaron is justified in being upset because in that setting, like, I mean, obviously we're not in their relationship and like watching this stuff happen, But like if you're coupled with someone and you really care about someone, like you're not gonna want to go and see them kiss someone else when like that's you that you're spending the days together, you're kissing each other during like that just felt a little bit off to me in that sense that maybe yeah, it just was for the game, but if there's like something deeper in her that's like trying to explore something else, like that came out and like
Hmm.
wanting to kiss Hakeem, in my opinion, like that's why I think she did it, just because she was like feeling some sort of like maybe there's something else out there that's not like maybe I mean, but maybe she really does like Aaron, but she just wasn't thinking like that. I feel like I don't think that's as true as like the fact that she maybe did want to explore something else.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if she had had few moments to really like sit and think about it, she might not have done it.
Mhm.
But I do think that it's kind of like that thing where it's like, what is that saying? Like drunk things. I forgot what the actual
Drunk
saying is, but like
or drunk.
drunk words or sober thoughts or something.
Yeah,
It's I think kind of similar to that, where it's like challenge actions are non-challenge desires, if you will.
yeah. What happened in the challenge doesn't always stay in the challenge if you want
Yeah.
to.
And that can go for the show The Challenge and for this challenge on Love Island.
Yeah.
I think yeah, like that was something that she wanted to do and this was her way of doing it in a way that she thought she wouldn't get in trouble for it. Like she would have an excuse to do it and still be able to stay with Aaron if she decided that after the challenge is what she wanted. I mean, Kayla and Aaron have been so up and down throughout these first four episodes. They've had a lot of fights, and I feel like every time we see them, they're fighting basically. But it does seem like there's a connection, and I kind of liked what Rob told Aaron when at the end of the episode, where it was like, just say what you need to say, get all your emotions out, but there is something here that's worth trying to save. And if you can't save it, then move on. But it's don't in this moment of anger say anything or do anything brash that you're going to regret tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I do think that they aren't over, but I do think that Aaron in particular right now would be very open to a bombshell that walked in, and I think that he would absolutely try to explore that option.
Yeah. I agree. And we heard one of the bombshells coming in does like Aaron. So we'll see if that is a temptation for him. But I was rooting for Killer and Aaron, but now I'm like seeing this fight and like other stuff that's going on. Like I really don't think that they're the right match for each other. So we'll see what happens in the next few episodes in this week. That
Yeah.
a lot's gonna go down because we are on the cliffhanger, so we don't even know how this like. We just saw them both crying, or Aaron wasn't really crying, but Aaron and Rob having a heart to heart, and then Carol are crying with Liv. Like we'll see what goes down, but I'm excited to just see what's gonna happen.
Yeah, so we did. So the new bombshells that are coming in are Andrea and Nicole. We saw them both a little bit on the After Sun. They got interviewed on there, and it seems like I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Andrea is the one going who's interested in Aaron. And then Nicole said that she is interested in Kendall, I believe. Am I right
Yeah,
about that?
yeah,
Um, and we'll see if that ends up being the case. Very often they'll say things like that and then they'll go in and, maybe that'll be the first person they talk to, but then very quickly decide that they have more chemistry with someone else. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. But I do think that Aaron absolutely would be uh, more than willing to have a conversation with somebody to see if he can find a more stable relationship there. But for entertainment purposes, I hope we still get Kayla and Aaron because they're very entertaining and up and down. And the longer they are together, the more entertainment we will have this season. And I am hashtag Team TV.
true. And we're getting a lot of that recently. So
Hmm.
we got, I mean, with the perfect match stuff, like that was just wild. So, and I love I feel like Love Island also, like everyone is very much like their emotions also run high in the show. Like I'm like, oh my god, like is this how they actually feel in the real world? Like the way that they react to things or the way they talk about certain.
No, they're in a very
I
unique
know.
situation. And I mean, Love Island, more than I think it's longer, it's like probably twice as long the filming process of Love Island as Perfect Match or Bachelor in Paradise, even. Because I think it's 36 to 40 days usually that they're on Love Island, whereas like Perfect Match, I think is maybe what, 2 weeks, and Paradise is maybe like 3 weeks usually. So this is quite a bit longer. And so by the end, like, yeah, they're a little stir crazy, I think, and just kind of they're get more and more willing to just kind of forget the cameras are there and say and do whatever. So I'm excited for us to reach that point in a couple weeks here.
Yeah.
But
Well, they know how to make a good reality TV show.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, we will keep you all updated on Love Island and the finale of Perfect Match next week. So stay with us and keep up with those shows so you can come back and hear our takes next week on both of those. But thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Let's Chat Reality and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And we will chat with you all next week.
Thanks
Bye,
so much
everyone.
for listening.